All right. Good morning, KW Prosperity. It's Matt and Mary Beth here with you today. It's Monday, May 11th. Happy Mother's Day, belated Mother's Day, Mary Beth.
Thank you.
I
Happy
didn't get a
Mother's
chance to
Day,
sing that to you
everybody.
earlier, but happy Mother's Day to you and to all the mothers that are watching on this call. I hope you had a good weekend.
Yeah. It's just, there's so many people that are mothers, right? Even if you're
Yeah.
not actually a mother, you haven't birthed a baby, I'm sure you have plenty of babies out there that you're responsible for. So to all the women out there, happy Mother's Day. And to the men who have to play the mother role sometimes. So
Yes, or both roles. Absolutely. Well, so we're back at it this week. We're back into the MREA. I've got my book all highlighted and ready to go for today. Last week, we really started to get into the Earn a Million section. So 2 weeks ago, we were really diving into the Think a Million. Last week, we began to dive into the Earn a Million stage. And we really went through the economic model and the lead gen model, which really leaves us for this week. We're going to start the week by covering the budget model today and the organizational model tomorrow. And then after that, we're going to shift gears into the millionaire real estate agent economic model, and then the millionaire real estate agent lead gen model, budget model, organization model. So that's going to be kind of really the next steps for this week, at least Monday through Thursday. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the budget model. So we're on page 152. And really, the definition of the budget model, as he writes, it says, your budget model is about understanding what happens to your money between the time you receive it as gross revenue and keep it as net income. So in short, it is about expenses, or more to the point, minimizing your expenses to maximize your net income. And that's really what we're going to cover today.
Yeah. So if we back up just for a second, we understand that we don't have a budget to work with if we're not accelerating the other two models, which is economic model, understanding your numbers and maintaining your appointments to go on in order to close, to cultivate, to create listings and buyer contracts. Okay, so that's on your economic model. And then your lead generation model is, right now we're in bold and Matt is wearing his bold shirt. In bold, our intention is to talk to 40 people a day. And that is 20 calls and 20 other ways of, so texting, messaging, social media and whatnot. So as long as you're putting those two to work, which is economic model and lead generation model, you then will have to manage the money of it and set a budget and have some anticipated profits. And then also some anticipated reserves. And so I would like to start the budget conversation with some concepts rather than percentages.
And yeah, no, I think that's a good place to start. And Mary Beth, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say where a lot of people kind of get off the train tracks can be with the budget model, because they create the plan and then they create, okay, how do I get the appointments? But then they realize, oh wait, well, I'm not actually netting much money because they're spending.
Yeah, well, that, and the other thing is, and that's a typical issue with somebody who doesn't know the flow of their business. Maybe they're in their first year, the first couple of years, they haven't understood this seasonality inside of their whole personal style of business. There's some agents that really kill it in the third quarter. And there's some agents that, sunset out in the third quarter and they put their, the second is their best. So in the beginning of your business, it may be not spending, overspending, just not really having some percentages and some plan budget to work. In the later years, and what I would say in our industry, the seasoned agents, whether they're super successful seasoned or seasoned and maintaining a level of business that they wish they could grow, but this is what they do. The issue there is, and I'll share this out like on a personal, is it's a difference of understanding how much of your money goes where, taxes, other people, expenses. So then when you see that big number, that, oh, if you feel good, oh, I'm making over 200,000, let's just say I'm making over 100,000. Well, when you truly understand the budget model, you understand where every dollar of that goes. And I will tell you that if you made just an extra $50,000 a year, it would feel a whole lot different than what some of us are running at. In that it doesn't have to be an extra $200,000, and maybe for some of us it does. And yet I just know that it could be that little bit of waste here and there, or things that we're not holding accountable, or subscriptions that we're not really using, that are eating away from profits that would make us more fulfilled with the business that we're creating. And
Absolutely.
So when we look at the three key areas of the budget model, as we move on to page 154, the first two, like, we've really covered, because if you've been watching us since we've started our shift series, this was in the shift book, right? So remargin your expenses, I believe, was it number 2?
Yeah. And then ultimately lead with revenue, don't lead with expenses. I mean, that's been huge, really, through both of these books.
Yeah. So number 2 inside the shift book, which starts on page 29, definitely dives into what you do inside of a shift as far as the budget. And just the same way that it's never good to go to the grocery store when you're hungry, it's never good to make a budget when you're having a great year. In that you just tend to stick the hand in the cookie jar a little bit extra because it's just there, right? So the first one is lead with revenue. And I think leading with revenue has everything to do with that lead generation model, and then holding those activities accountable so that you do have income coming off of those activities. The other thing about leading with revenue is, as you fine tune this, and I am watching now top agents, top leaders, because they're given a little bit extra time back right now. And I can tell you that it's not that we're sitting back and painting our nails. It's that we're taking that time going, oh my gosh, now I can dive into this that I wanted to read, or now I can clean up this that I've been looking at my database. And so leading with revenue, as you fine tune and you reread these books, leading with revenue could be that I'm going to stop settling at the commission level that I've been settling at. When I go and take a listing, I'm going to go in and I'm going to ask for what I feel I'm valued at, which may be that as a listing agent, I charge 3%. Now let's decide what we'd like to charge the rest of, we'd like to pay out to the buyer's agents. And so that little mind shift has to do with leading with revenue, and yet you may not catch it the first time around.
Absolutely. And leading with revenue is all about, as he writes on page 153, Gary, if you can get multiple dollars in return for $1 investment, then you're not spinning your wheels. So, basically, for every dollar invested in a business expense, you should receive some multiple of that dollar back. So you're not spending and losing money and going in the red. If you can see that, whatever it is, whatever you're investing in, you're getting a 4-time return on your investment, 10-time return on your investment, then it's worth it.
Well, here's a great example. So a lot of our agents now are putting ads through our command, which is it connects to our Facebook manager, basically, page manager. And so they may be running an ad that may cost them $30 budget. Well, if you don't get any leads from that, or if the leads that you have are not generating contracts, then I would start to assess, maybe it was the type of ad I ran, maybe it was the wording that I used, or the pictures that I chose, or the target market that I went out to. It's also a time when you're talking about budget model and holding every dollar accountable and playing red light, green light, as that's number 2. The key is to play red light, green light. You also have to be measuring your DNA on the usage of the tool or the activity, the tonality, the word choice. So there's tons of ways to just get a better efficiency from what we're doing. And when we're looking at the budget, we can really hold our dollars accountable a little bit better, even if we think we're doing a great job.
Absolutely, and I look at playing red light, green light, and one thing I don't know if we covered this as much in the shift series when we're talking about red light, green light, but they do focus on this a lot in the MREA, is your fixed expenses versus your unfixed expenses, and how some people cut back on things like, you know, maybe it could be a dialer for lead generation, and sometimes they cut back on things that are actually supporting their lead generation when they should really be focusing on cutting back in other areas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and one of the things that they say on page 155, in terms of insulating your company against unexpected income shifts, like
Mm-hmm.
what we're in now, you want to concentrate on keeping your fixed costs, like rent, salaries, and leases, as low as possible. And then it's the unfixed ones that you can be a little bit more flexible with.
Mm-hmm. Which those are the ones that get you in trouble, because you're like, it's just $39. It's just $10 a month. It's just thousands of dollars a month that you're putting out. And we have to be mindful that the dollars that we're actually spending,
Yep.
we need that, plus we need even more income to actually spend that money when you look at taxable income.
Yep.
You know, I also want to make a mention that you should absolutely be speaking to your accountant.
Yep.
So that you are tracking your expenses properly and that you are measuring what they need you to measure in order to get the best tax benefits.
Yep.
Also, this is something that's not on budget, but this is something that came up on Friday on one of my calls, is a Roth IRA, which is the max is $6,000 a year. It's tax deferred. You should also be talking about how do you do maybe some smart things with some extra income that does come in. So when we're looking at a budget, I don't want you to feel refined that, oh, I have this budget. But I will tell you that if I gave you $100 and told you to make this work, when we were, come on, guys, when we were in college, right, and we had $20 to our name, but Thirsty Thursdays was not gonna, we weren't skipping a week. So what were we gonna do? We were gonna take that $20 and we were gonna make it work for us. We were gonna make sure we didn't miss out on those fun opportunities with our friends, and we made that $20 work. It's the same thing. It's giving yourself a budget to say, I'm not going over this in this part of my business for this month.
Yeah.
You know, and if I have to, I'll just, the other thing is, well, you know, guys, you know that you have MLS dues and you have board dues, and it usually all hits you in January.
Yep.
There's a methodology of putting money away and reserving it so that when January comes, we're not stressed out trying to figure out how to pay for some of these annual expenses inside of our business. And if we were budgeting, I do believe we would feel a little bit better. And the seasonality of just the market itself, being in New Jersey especially, we're in a four seasons market where we know our winter months yield us less units.
Yep.
And so if that's happening and proportionately we sell less units during that time, it would be wise that our biggest expenses aren't taken in January.
Yeah.
We may want to shift that to a June or July. And so this chapter truly cultivates a business professional out of you.
Yeah, and another thing I want to say is, as we were talking about earlier in the book, the 8 goal categories of an MREA. Yep. I think one of the things that they talked about in that chapter that really, it's important for all of these, but you should really be looking at your budgets. Some of these people on the side in the gray boxes, they're saying they check them at least monthly, but I would almost say you got to look at these weekly. And I think we do that really well on a market center level. Yes. And we're running the business and we're modeling how our agents should be running the business. We have a financial meeting every Thursday morning, really a nice tight 30-minute meeting, 8:30 to 9 o'clock each Thursday. And then usually the last Thursday, because we're closing the books for the month, will be a little bit longer. But I would say we always have a pulse on what we're spending, where we're spending it. And we were doing that even before this
Oh
pandemic.
yeah.
But, I mean, we've been
Well,
doing this since I joined last July.
well, and the reason that we've been doing it for that is because I was raised inside of this environment, and this is just the way we do it. And so if the agents, I want you to hear that we're modeling this for you. We run on an income statement, we run on a balance sheet, and we look at it I look at it pretty much daily. The other thing is that Lisa, who's our market center administrator, who takes care of our company's finances, there are some metrics that I need to know, that Bill, our operating partner, and Ron Iosa, his partner, they need to know, because those, as we go back to the comment that I've made a few times now, the lead measures and the lag measures.
Yep.
The lead measure in the financial, in the budget, the lead measure, you know, it may be, it may be in the financial, it's going to be what we're spending. That's going to be the lead measure. It's going to, how much did we spend on this? How many listings were taken? And so then you're looking at the income that's coming in against the expenses to see if we're in line with what we had projected. If not, we need to figure out where to cut so that we can chart the course. We're not going to let the money run us. We're going to run our money. And so as an agent, it's the same thing. You need to, you know, you're watching what numbers are going, what are you expending on certain things, so that you can know that you're in line. At the end of the year, will you be profitable? That's going to be the lag measure. I was profitable. We had a great year. But the lead measure is going to be in your weekly review of what you're actually spending, and actually looking at those dollars and knowing what kind of effect it's having on your business, holding it accountable.
Well, that's the key word there, is holding it accountable.
Yeah.
You know, whether you are getting a return on the investment. And a big
So,
part of that is really the third piece of this, which is stick to the budget.
yep.
So as he writes, obviously, as your business grows from one stage to the next, your annual cost will be very different. So as you're growing your business, it's going to evolve, and is why you have to have a pulse on this really constantly. But he did say your percentages won't change. So what we've discovered is that no matter where you are on the continuum, the percentages remain remarkably stable. So we're looking at figures 18 and 19 in terms of the expense breakdown. We're going to dive more into that. Yeah, I mean, we're going to dive more into this probably once we get to the MREA budget model. Yet I think it's still good to look at the breakdown of how they have it broken down. Salaries, sorry, I don't know if you can see it, but salaries are going to be your highest expense, you know, and then lead generation, occupancy, technology, phone, supplies, education, equipment, and auto insurance. Those are really the 9 breakdowns that they have on this page.
Yeah, so understand, just the way we do, there are some categories. You have your operating expenses. Yep. True, I need to write a check for the printer. I need to write a check for the marketing pieces. I need to write a check for the runner who wants to go put a sign out. You guys should start tracking every single thing that you are spending on your business. That would be the first thing that you want to start doing. Do a 30-day tracking. And then the salaries are something else. And some of you may say, like, salaries, I don't have anybody in my world that I'm paying. I would even challenge you that by a year from now, you have yourself on salary. And as an agent, you're part of the business. You are a cost of sale. Without the agent running around to the closing and with the client, you don't have a business. That is part of your business. Now remove yourself for a second. Pretend you're not an agent and you just own a real estate business. The real estate agent themselves would be a expense in the business. And so I would just suggest you can talk to an accountant, what would be a salary? And you could really just run this where all of your money gets put into one account as a business account, and you are paying your business expenses out of it, and you are also paying your agent yourself out of it. And let's say it's just, hey, I get a $5,000 a month salary.
Yep.
And if you have a month where you have 4 or 5 closings come in, well, that month the pot starts to get big, but you only get a $5,000 salary because there are going to be months that no money is added to that pot.
Yep.
Okay, so I would like for us to talk about specifics, and when we get to the MREA, we will. And yet I need for everybody to understand conceptually that what these expenses are. When you say, well, I'm just a single agent, yes, and there are things that you need in order to operate your business.
But I think that's also the mindset piece. You know,
Mm-hmm.
when we're coming back and we're looking at, well, when Gary Keller started this, he would answer the phone,
Keller
Keller
Williams International.
you know, and was always looking at the big picture. So when you're talking about, well, as an individual agent, I don't have salaries, I don't have X, I don't have Y, but you need to prepare and get your budget in line so that once you do need the leverage and you do need the support, that you're not restructuring everything that you've already had it built in.
Yeah. Or you have to pay taxes.
Yep.
So I also, this budget model does not include the taxes. This is a budget model, and even the economic model. Sometimes when I do that with you individually, we may want to add our taxes in there. Okay. But if we were to look at it and say, we know we pay 40% taxes, 30% taxes, we can have that as a last line item to add back the taxes and let the economic model work the way it is. And yet when that check comes in, we forget that we have to pay taxes on it. I would challenge you to, when you see that $10,000 check that you get from your broker, put $3,000 of it in a tax account and $7,000 into your operating account.
Yep.
Don't let that money go to you so that you feel like you have that cushion, because it's not your money. And then you freak out and we don't have money to pay for taxes. And I hate when I have to go through that with you. So I just want to make a mention of that. And the other thing is, okay, so now you run for a year or 2 years and your business starts ramping up, and now you're doing 20-something deals and you need an assistant. Well, do you have some money in reserve so that you can go ahead and hire an assistant without worrying that, is she going to make me money? Is he going to make me money? Or do you have a cushion? Do you have money in your operating account or in your reserve account so that you can say, well, I want to hire somebody and I'm going to give it 3 months. So what's the risk I'm taking on this person? Let's call it $3,000 a month, $9,000. Do I have $9,000 in the reserve account? I do.
Yep.
And then I can make that decision to hire with coming from abundance and not scarcity.
Well, yeah,
not worried about, will I get paid back, and take a chance on somebody who's super talented that could literally double your business.
Well, yeah, and that's actually going to be a nice segue into tomorrow's call, which will be the organizational model, because that is one of the things he talks about is you want to hire talent, and you want to make sure that, hiring talent is going to cost some money, yet great talent is going to really elevate your business, more than just hiring the cul-de-sac talent. And that's where the budget model really comes in to allow you to do that. And to your point, the risk really isn't as great as you think, because you're really only, you're going to put them on a 30, 60, 90-day plan. And if it's not a match after 90 days, then you're going to exit gracefully. But ultimately, you're not forking out 12 months worth of salary.
That's right.
And so that's really, as we're looking at the breakdown, it also shows up at the top, and we're going to get into this, but it does increase a little bit depending upon how much you're earning, like the 20,000, 36,000, 65,000, 100,000, or 144,000.
Yep. And so if you are reviewing page 157, I want you to understand what cost of sale is.
Yeah.
Cost of sale, which is up top, as I said, and if you notice in the example, the first example, it says $21,000 is the cost of sale. That is what we call in Keller Williams world the company dollar, the cap.
Yeah.
So that 21,000 is the most that agent pays to their company. This is based on a writer in Texas, and in Texas the average price point is lower, so therefore their cap is a bit lower. Right. In our Wayne market, our cap is $35,000, which is the most that you would ever pay to the broker. Yeah. And throughout the state there's different caps because of price points. However, if you notice, it says 21,000 is cost of sale for 6 million, 21,000 is cost of sale for 10 million. That is indicating that you as a single agent should be able to work a business up to 10 million while paying the market center just that one cap, that percentage pay in. You're split. We don't call it a split. It's technically a contribution towards company dollar. It's a max contribution towards company dollar. And so you notice at the $16.7 million producer, it hikes up to $100,000 is cost of sale. Somebody says, well, what is that? I don't have that other $80,000 is, well, it's a few team members and their production and what you'd be paying out of the transaction. So if I had a team member and Matt, you're on my team and you have 50% of the transaction and I get 50% of the transaction, then 5,000 of a $10,000 check would be considered a cost of sale for that year.
Well, that would be really big in the economic model.
Yeah, yes, it could be.
Well, so, I mean, because I mean, that is going to be part of the cost of sale and that's part of that model.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. So, so cost of sale is a cost that you incur only and only when a transaction closes. Yep. Okay, so that would be the like I said, the royalties or the company dollar, and then the agents that are working inside of that. Maybe even transaction fees if you have some of those that are attached to just a closing. Everything else is considered operational, and that is below the expense detail. So, all right.
Awesome. Well, so I think that's a good place to stop for today on that.
One other thing is they can also find this. It's considered a chart of accounts for the MREA. If they go to kellerinc.com, it's in the MREA resources for MREA, and you'll see you can download the chart of accounts, which actually gives you a breakdown of how you would even be booking it if you were running, let's say, a QuickBooks, or in our world, it's Account Edge. So.
Yeah, and there's a lot of great stuff on Keller Inc. I mean, for the MREI series that we're doing on Fridays, there's a whole list of things on there, like expense breakdowns, budget breakdowns. There's you know, just there's a lot of different things you can pull out.
So those two on the same link, Keller Inc., and you go to the MREI and the MREA, and there's tons of resources for this.
Yeah, no, definitely explore there because there were more resources there than I even knew was there. So definitely check that out. Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to stay right here because we're going to be moving into our bold pivot mindset session. But yeah, tomorrow we'll be doing the organizational model. And if you guys, again, have any questions, feel free to text us, call us, email us, and we're happy to support you. So we'll see you all tomorrow at 11.